This is Joan Jerkovich, your life coach here on News Radio 1150 KSAL. And I'm going to open my show today by talking about fathers who leave their children. These fathers who've abandoned their children, because I have a caller coming up who wants to tell us about how he came back into his children's lives and now he's trying to be their leader, their mentor, but he's also having to repair a lot of what came before. I found some interesting Bible quotes from a website called openbible.info, where you type in whatever the topic is that you're concerned about. And here's what came up from the Bible about fathers who leave their children. Quoting from 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Couple of these quotes from the Bible that are pretty critical of, let's just say, these dads who abandon their children. This one comes from Matthew 10:36, "And a person's enemies will be those of his own household." Or from Psalm 106:37, "They sacrifice their sons and their daughters to the demons." From Psalm 27, verse 10, "For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in." I really like that one. And this is the one that to me is very contemplative and something to reflect on as we start into this show. This is from Psalm 139, verses 13 to 16. "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." That to me is the most beautiful of all. But let's get into some more of this topic of fathers who abandon their children. There was a video done by Oprah, a program done by her that is still up on her own videos. You can find it on the internet, done in May of 2013. And it's been a while ago now, but that does not escape my memory. I have thought about that show many, many times. In that show, she talked about how 1 in 3 children grow up in homes without their biological father. Now, homes without a biological father, that equates to about 24 million children living in the homes without their birth parent, their birth father. So what do these kids think about this? One thing they think about is, why did my dad leave me? Why is my dad not a part of my life? This is kind of like this caller that's going to come up and talk about. He said he left when they were babies and he didn't come back until they were in high school. And now that they're young men, he's trying to lead them and be a father to them. And of course, that's not without its challenges. Getting back to Oprah's show, I remember this one specific dad, and he's on the video, that talked about why he left his kids. And here's what he said. "The reason I walked away is because, at the moment, I wasn't the man that I wanted to be for my kids. I put them on a higher pedestal than I put myself. So at a point, I wasn't worthy to be in their life because I wasn't the man that I would want for them." Men, fathers, feeling inadequate as fathers does seem to be a common theme with these men who abandon their children. Going back to May and June of 2013, another author was writing about Oprah's program. Her name is Karen Salmonson, and she wrote about how, yes, it's incredibly important that you approach these kids and talk with them about their fathers in a way that validates their feelings. They need to make sure, and she's quoting here from actually Dr. Julie Gottman, who's saying validating feelings is so important that we make sure that the child understands that the father's decision to abandon them had nothing whatsoever to do with the child. This child oftentimes will feel guilty and they'll feel like it's their fault. The way you validate their emotions, how does that happen? How do you do that? Is that you confirm the feelings and say that you have a right to feel this way. Help them maybe put a name to their feelings, such as, are you feeling sad about this or hurt or confused? That will help these children. And then the other thing that is very critical is the adults, and especially the mothers in these children's lives, is don't try to talk them out of feeling sad or hurt that their father's not in their life. To discount their feelings in this matter will only leave them feeling even more rejected. Now, Michael Gurian, who's a best-selling author of The Wonder of Boys and The Wonder of Girls, agreed about the importance of reassuring children that it's not their fault. And I really liked what he said, because he's saying, and I think this makes perfect sense, that you're going to have to constantly and repetitive tell these children it is not your fault. This can take months and years of repetition, but do it, as he says, in a gentle, a firm, a clear, and a loving way. Another thing that experts agree on is that you have to be sure to not badmouth the father. You know, there's a truth to be told here, so stick as close to the true story as you can, but don't embellish it with emotions and anger and things that you feel unhappy yourself about. Be mindful of the fact that this is not what this child needs. Think about the fact that this is their biological dad. They're going to feel a genetic connection to this person, like, okay, if you're going to tell me dad is so bad, then I'm part of dad. Does that mean that I'm bad too? So it's really important to be mindful of finding maybe at least some positive aspect about their father, their biological father, to present to this child. You know, maybe they were really, intelligent or great at some math subject in school, or a great sports person. Find something that you can focus on that brings those good qualities, because you're probably very likely seeing them in your very children. So bring some connection to their fathers in that way. Now, another thing, let's talk to the moms a little bit, that the moms can keep in mind, because this is difficult for these single moms. But think about it. If this man had such a low conscience or such a big ego, whatever it might be, that he can abandon his own child, he probably isn't going to be, or wasn't going to be, a stellar role model in that child's life. If his utter and abject selfishness was going to show up and present a way of living in a negative way that would negatively impact your child, who needs that? That's not a good role model for your child. So do your very best to not overly focus on the absence of the father. That's something you mothers can't control, but focus instead on what you, as the mother, the single mother to this child, can do to provide your child with lots of love, support, and positive values. Let's take a short break, but we'll be right back with the Joan Jerkovich Show on 1150 KSAL.